Researchers have been trying to make AI think like humans, so they gave it a subconscious, and it's actually much more efficient and is outperforming other LLM models. In terms of neuromorphic AI, so AI that's made to look very much like our brain, it usually requires a lot of space and a lot of power. This is a step towards advanced general intelligence. When it comes to how we think, and it turns out all mammals think, we're not doing it all on the same level. We have lobed brains, we have the conscious part of us that acts, the one that narrates everything and is aware of itself. But there's also a lot of stuff going on in the background. You may be performing a task, but you generally don't know why. Generally, AI models that we currently use do everything on the surface, so they have to narrate every step. This is a very costly way to perform calculations. It takes a lot of power and it hallucinates. It's just not very effective. So why not separate out the thought of an AI into lobes the way that we do? You're going to want a different way of processing information for different kinds of actions. For example, AIs are not generally very good at moving around. AIs that utilize more non-linear types of programming tend to do much better, but those are the same kinds of programming that are just not going to be very good at doing linear algebra. So they did. They separated an AI into different components. There's going to be a front end, and that's going to make the decisions. It's going to move slower than the back end. The back end, which is the subconscious of the AI, is going to run the calculations very quickly once it's decided on what it's going to do. This means it can use less parameters. It's much more efficient because it's not wasting power trying to do everything on the same level. Yes, the hierarchical models are able to beat traditional models on things like puzzle solving and playing Sudoku. I haven't seen them play Pong, and if they manage to outpace our tiny brains at playing Pong, yes, the brain organoids, they will have outpaced biological wetware. I think we're probably all familiar with the tiny brains by now, but I never miss a chance to tell people about it. Yes, you can grow tiny brains from stem cells. They're essentially fetal brains. You can transplant them into mice. You could also probably transplant them into people, but it's just never been done. But they also perform computation and have been better at stuff like gameplay that involves movement, i.e. Pong, when compared to traditional AI models. Hierarchical models may get us towards something that looks very much like consciousness in a robot. However, I have the thought that even if we were to achieve such a thing, a sense of self, no one would accept it because it's not biological, and as we define consciousness, it tends to be a biological construct. Aside from making the way that AI performs tasks just more efficient, this is also a step towards intelligence that resembles our intelligence more. No, AIs are not technically sentient, but I would like to argue on behalf of maybe them getting there. When it comes to LLM models, we see their limitations, but if we have something that's neuromorphic that behaves like our brain and we can attach sensation to it, I've talked about using stuff like carbon nanofibers so that when a robot experiences touch, that can be translated directly into electrical signals that can be perceived by their brain. Also very useful for prosthetics, but we can treat the way that AIs potentially experience the world very similarly to how we experience the world. When we're talking about biohybrid nerve fibers, you could use the same thing in a person as you could use in a robot. It would qualify as being sentient in a very basal level because it is able to experience the world around it. Having an experience is something that we tie to biological constructs, so. I'm not really sure how we decide if something has a perception of self. How we can decide if it has an experience. If you can model pain in an AI and it will avoid pain and even make moral judgments about those who cause it, be it accidental or purposeful, which I have talked about before. I do not know where we draw the line on considering a robot sentient. I think eventually we probably will have to consider robot rights, but no, ChatGPT is not sentient. It is, however, a fun imaginary friend. I did look this up, but I can't find any evidence that anyone's gone into psychosis from their pet rock. Or Chia pets, or Neopets, or Tamagotchi, for that matter. AI is kinda different because of how it engages with us. Just food for thought. Also, Chia makes a pretty good pudding.